Cambridge.
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 Cambridge is electric,
Exciting.
Progressive.
unique.
Creative.
There's always something to do and see, and I really love it for that.
It's the place where J.J. Thomson discovered the first subatomic particle.
My mum was a Footlight when she was here, and it's made me just gone, oh, this is it. This is like what I need to do. So it's why I applied to Cambridge.
It had never really crossed my mind that I would be a Footlights person.
Cambridge is a magical city. There's a lot of eccentricity in Cambridge, which I quite like.
That's the basis of how Cambridge has worked. That's why we're so successful.
This is Cambridge now. Everything Cambridge will be a time capsule for the city.
Quite often I say that this could only be Cambridge because there's just so much knowledge, insight, new things happening all of the time. I think it's just a really exciting place to be.
What's more quintessentially Cambridge than going punting?
Founding of Cambridge is one of those things that a bit like you drop a pebble into a pond and the ripples spread out through the century.
It had never really crossed my mind that I would be a Footlights person, that we had the great Messiah hanging over us, JC, John Cleese, and Peter Cook.
The Old Cavendish Laboratory was the first purpose-built physics lab in Cambridge. It was set up in 1874 as a place for experimental research in physics in Cambridge. And this was a real revolution at the time because up until that point, all teaching had been done kind of informally by dons in college rooms around the city. This was the first time a modern purpose-built laboratory was established, and it went on to transform our understanding of physics and the world we live in.
There's a lot of eccentricity in Cambridge, which I quite like. They're just people are obviously intellectual and they're thinking about things, they're quite distracted, or they've got their sort of different interests. There's people meeting each other and having ideas and getting stimulated and encouraged to do things.
What I've noticed in the last decade in Cambridge, and I think it has a bit of an impact on what's been happening with, the cost of living, and loads of musicians have arrived in the city, and they've chosen, like I did I suppose, they've come out of London perhaps, and they've chosen to make Cambridge their home. And the amount of talent that is now living in and around Cambridge is unbelievable. Like, best in the country, world-class talent. And so I think it's a really interesting time for Cambridge.
A young person who thinks they like the idea of maybe going into comedy, writing comedy, going to the BBC, being an entertainer, are more likely to choose Cambridge than any other university because they're familiar with the word Cambridge Footlights, just the phrase. It's a brand, I suppose.
Cambridge dates from Roman times. The first settlement that we're aware of is on Castle Hill. It's a Roman fort there, and probably the area around Chesterton is the earliest sort of inhabited area of Cambridge.
Old Cavendish has this amazing legacy of scientific discovery. I think you could argue that it's probably the most significant scientific building in the world. It's the place where J.J. Thomson discovered the first subatomic particle, the electron. It's where Ernest Rutherford and his team split the atom for the first time in 1932. It's also the place where the structure of DNA, the molecule that encodes the information that used to build all living things, was first understood.
Well, I went up to Cambridge in 1957, I think it was, to study engineering. I really wanted to be a photographer, but my family said I should get a proper job and at least get a degree. So I went up to study engineering, but I really wanted to be a photographer. So I ran along to Varsity magazine and got on the staff there.
Cambridge in those days wasn't known as Cambridge, it was known as Granta Bridge, so named after the river, the Granta at that point. It doesn't really become known fully as Cambridge until about 15 or 1600.
Oxford has the Oxford Review Group, but it doesn't have the same, obviously it's produced some brilliant people like Rowan, and Manchester and Durham and all kinds of places have had fantastically talented people. But Cambridge is the club room, it has a checkbook and a treasurer and even a don to supervise it. There was a wonderful man called Harry Porter who for years was the sort of archivist and sort of benign uncle who looked after Footlighters, and it certainly was there in our day.
First of all, it's grown in scale. Secondly, it has developed a lot of networks which has enabled it to grow in scale. Those networks have enabled it to mobilize capital, to mobilize insight, relationships that have supported these new companies and develop an entrepreneurial culture. The most important thing we're facing at the moment, though, is the transition that's happened perhaps in the last 5 or 10 years. As Cambridge has got very big, if you double every 10 years, it very quickly gets very big. And how we then think about the same kind of networking that has been so successful in the past, fueling the growth in the future.
We went along and, tried to go out and take a look at a particular climb. Somehow we got to know a few of them, and they suggested we come along with them and have a look. And at that time, there'd been a book written about the night climbers that was quite well known, I think in the 30s or something even, but nobody had attempted to photograph them, or nobody had photographed them seriously. There were photographs around from before, but they were taken by night climbers, not taken by a photographer. I didn't like heights much, so I tried to keep my feet as near the ground as I could.
The founding of Cambridge is one of those things that, a bit like you drop a pebble into a pond and the ripples spread out through the centuries. It's very contingent on all sorts of small coincidences, small things that happen. So there had been a university in Oxford from probably the late 11th century, and certainly by the mid-12th century, helped by Henry II banning English students from going to study in Paris. So they navigate themselves to Oxford. And Oxford is a thriving centre of study with possibly as many as 3,000 students by the beginning of the 13th century.
Just being able to go down to the club room, Hugh fiddle on the piano, I would sort of write things and chat with him and with Emma, and we would plan and fail and succeed and fail and keep doing it. And, we certainly weren't the Beatles of comedy, but it was our Hamburg, if you like. It's just the way you practice and get tight if you were a band. Footlights is such a huge advantage with the club room and with this momentum and this history. You each learn off each other and you work together, and it's much harder to do that without something like a Footlights.
We still have a major research program in the physics of medicine, so there's impacts on medicine, biomedical research, astronomy, material science, developing new materials that can be used to generate energy, to build new forms of computing, extending all the way out to understanding the universe at the biggest scales, the history of the Big Bang, cosmology, and also the basic building blocks of matter at particle physics experiments like the Large Hadron Collider at CERN.
The obvious first problem is how do you photograph night climbing, is how do you light it, because it's by nature going to be dark. My friend Tim had some good friends on Life magazine, and they supported the project, and they gave us a whole box of those huge old-fashioned flash bulbs that you used to see in the movies with wire filled in them. And I didn't want lots of wires or cables to get it, so I resorted to the old-fashioned method that they call open flash, where I would open the camera manually and give a signal to my colleague who was holding the flash gun, and he would fire the flash gun, and then I would close the camera. And the fact that the camera shutter was open for a second or so didn't really make any difference. So 90% of the pictures were really taken by open flash in that method. I wasn't trying to have a style, I was trying to take each subject as it came and do what worked best for that.
There is a fight that breaks out between a scholar in Oxford and one of the townspeople, and the townsperson is killed by an arrow. The scholars appeal to the king. The king says, I'm not going to do anything about it, and so they flee. They leave Oxford. They're frightened about what the townspeople in Oxford would do to them. There'd been tensions between the university and the town for some time, and they go to different places. So some go a little bit further up the Thames to Reading, some apparently go to Maidstone, and some come to Cambridge. Why do they come to Cambridge? Well, that may well have been because of a man called John Grimm, who was a senior official in the university in Oxford at the beginning of the 13th century. East Anglia is one of the most populous parts of the kingdom at this time, so it's not necessarily surprising that a group of scholars come to East Anglia.
I'm hugely proud of this city, and I wasn't born here, but I feel a part of the city. And the incredible things that have happened here.
We'd been photographing in Trinity College one night, and we were walking around the main courtyard, and as we came, a couple of dons came out and started walking around, and we shuffled behind a pillar to not be seen as they walked round, and as they came past, one of them said to the other, "That's odd, doesn't look like lightning tonight." Another time I was actually just climbing the spikes to get into Trinity College, and the proctors came by or approached, and I tried to get off in a hurry, and I still got a bit of a scar on my knee from that.
If I had to choose a favourite scientist, it'd probably be Ernest Rutherford. I actually hold an Ernest Rutherford Fellowship, which is named after him. He was the head of the Cavendish Laboratory from 1919 till his death in 1937, and he really established the whole field that I work in today. He's responsible for leading our understanding of the structure of atoms, and we kind of led teams that split the atom for the first time, discovered the neutron, worked on radioactivity, and he was this incredibly kind of energetic, larger-than-life character who was a great leader, inspired the people around him, and transformed how we think about the basic building blocks of our universe.
Well, I mean, we're Cambridge undergraduates. What have we got to say? You know, yeah, my fucking bedder was late last night. You know, this morning. It's just the most privileged lives imaginable. There's nothing to complain about, and stand-ups about moaning about the world. You know, but there's something so ridiculous about a student with all the advantages of being at Cambridge, sort of leaning on a microphone. Surely what you want is, come in. Perkins, come in, and you have a sketch.